We finally have arrived at the Paldea region, with a wide variety of new Pokemon to explore. In today's video, I want to go over the top 10 new Pokemon to use for Scarlet and Violet, so you guys will know what will be the best mons to use on your adventures in the new games. This list will go over the new mons only, as I'm sure this will be the mons a majority of you guys will be looking to try and use on your playthroughs. In the very near future though, I'll be making a top 10 best Pokemon video where I'll be covering the entirety of the decks with previous mons also brought into the equation. Until then though, if you enjoyed the video today, remember to leave a like and use that subscribe button to stay up to date on future content. Before we get into what I want to say, thanks to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video. The only thing that's got me more excited than Scarlet and Violet right now is today's sponsor, HelloFresh. It's the fall, and the one thing I think of indulging in is fresh produce. Thanks to HelloFresh, I don't have to go out picking up veggies from random farms. They can deliver them right to my table. See, every recipe from HelloFresh includes freshly picked ripe produce that gets right to you within a week. If you're a big fan of those vegetables, HelloFresh actually has vegetarian meals, alongside pescatarian and wholesome meals as well. So variety is right there for you, and it's something I definitely appreciate. Don't get it twisted though, HelloFresh isn't just offering meals for you day to day. They also offer limited edition baking kits. You and your loved ones can gather around this holiday season and enjoy some delicious sweets. I'm actually just getting hungry talking to you guys about this stuff. So I think I'll go dig into my own HelloFresh box and cook myself up something great after this video. If you want to give this wonderful service a try, use my link or go to HelloFresh.com and use POG Umbreon November 70 for 70% off, plus free shipping on your first box. That's pretty awesome. And I want to thank HelloFresh once again for sponsoring the day's video. Starting off our list, we have a set of version exclusives, being Ceruledge and Armarouge, with Ceruledge being exclusive to Violet, meanwhile Armarouge is our Scarlet exclusive. While I think Ceruledge is a bit better for these games due to its offensive ghost typing being a bit better for the story, I think both are strong enough to warrant this spot. Having an offensive fire type will be essential to your story for a lot of the Victory Road path, as you match up well against Katie, Brassius, Glaciado, and Poppy, regardless of which fire type you use. I feel like either option will provide you with a satisfying experience here. But I have to mention that if you chose Sprigatito for your starter, me, Armarouge will objectively have a more difficult time on this path for your journey due to Nemona having a Skeleturge, which at least Ceruledge can attack back for super effective damage. As for your other two story paths, neither Pokemon really has a strong time for your journey. Team Star will typically provide a lot more neutral matchups for these two, outside of Aerie, who uses fighting type Pokemon. Besides her Annihilate, you'll be able to take out her team with ease regardless of which of the fire type evolutions you pick. The Titan story, on the other hand, will typically give you a lot of trouble though, as every one of these besides Orthworm will have a super effective matchup. If you're looking to add these Pokemon to your game, you'll need to catch a Charcadet, which you can find in areas such as the Asoto Desert and most of the East Providence. The evolutionary items you'll find through a quest in Zapapico, where you'll need to either defeat 10 Sinistea for Ceruledge or 10 Bronzor for Armarouge in order to get the item you'll need to evolve this Pokemon. I've done Ceruledge, and collecting the Sinistea coins actually didn't take that long. Going into our number 9 slot, we have our first starter Pokemon being Meowscarada. Meowscarada is the final evolution of Sprigatito. So for any Sprigatito fans, sadly you guys got the worst starter in the game this gen. All three starters are pretty strong in these games. Meowscarada is pretty useful for a variety of quests in these games, such as the Cloth, Great Tusk/Iron Treads, and Tatsugiri Titan Paths, as well as gym leaders such as Kofu, Rhyme, and Tulip. Having a dark type on your team is a pretty strong asset when preparing to fight potential psychic and ghost types, which thankfully this starter evolves into. There aren't really a lot of strong dark type options in these games, considering your next best choice would be Lokix, which only matches up well against Rhyme and Tulip, considering how weak you would be when going into Brassius' gym. Meowscarada's biggest issue would be when comparing to the other starters, which in my opinion offer more unique roles to your team. Qavo would be a nice role comparison option for your water and fighting types, while also being significantly better than Wiglet as far as early game waters go. Meanwhile, any comparably strong options you won't find until you're able to adventure in the water. As for Skeleturge, the rival fights against Nemona choosing Skeleturge, as players who choose Meowscarada have to deal with facing two fighting types. While Meowscarada is still a strong option in these games, I wouldn't put it towards the top, leaving it at number 9. Every team needs a strong flying type option, and coming in at number 8, we have Flamigo. Flamigo is an extremely early route flying Pokemon that has the fighting and flying type. This allows you to have a near perfect matchup against the Titan storyline, with your worst matchup being Tatsugiri, which is a neutral matchup. You also match up well against Giacomo and Eri of Team Star, Nemona battles if you don't choose Qavo, as well as gym leaders such as Katie, Brassius, Larry, and Glaciato to name a few. With all these strong matchups, you may be wondering, why is Flamigo only ranked number 8? I honestly think there's 3 fighting type Pokemon that do its job better in these games, which I'll go into later on today's list. If you're interested in using this Pokemon in your journey though, you can typically find it besides bodies of water in the beginning of your game. I recommend using this Pokemon on teams of Skeleturge especially, as you'll be able to utilize this for matchups against normal and dark type Pokemon that would otherwise put pressure on you. These two will be strong enough to handle a majority of trainers you'll encounter, leaving Flamigo at number 8 on our list. This generation is a huge generation for fighting types, so it only makes sense we mention another fighting type on our number 7 slot being Qavo, the final stage of Quaxly. Qavo is a water fighting Pokemon with a pretty strong physical attack stat. You'll gain access to a fairly early water type too that will be able to put in a ton of work against your Titan storyline besides Tatsugiri, your Team Star battles against Mela and Giacomo, as well as gym leaders such as Larry and Glaciato. While there are certainly less matchups than Flamigo that you'll be strong against as of right now, the Elite Four, you also will be able to tear apart Rika's team, as well as half of Gita's team. Your increased attack stat of 125 also is a small amount higher than Flamigo as well. And having a water type in general is always appreciated for in-game. While this isn't a standout generation for the water starters, I still think that Qavo is a dangerous option for this region, despite there being 2 better fighting types. Moving on to our next fighting type for today's list, we have Palmot, the final evolution for Palmy. Palmot is our first electric fighting type, and it's a pretty strong option for these games. I actually think the electric typing is pretty valuable in these games, especially if you choose Meowscarada or Skeleturge, as it's useful for Nemona's Qavo or Meowscarada. On top of the typically strong fighting matchups, you'll also have the added bonus of taking on bosses such as the Tatsugiri Titan, the gym leader Kofu, as well as the Elite Four rematch against Larry's flying type team. While electric types typically aren't great in-game, I do think that Palmot is a different story. Even if you have a bad matchup, Palmot can always offer some support to your in-game team with the move Revival Blessing, which basically functions the same as the item Revive. While I'm sure if you're playing a Nuzlocke, you've already banned this move. But even with that, Palmot still has plenty to offer for your team with its typing alone, so make sure to use it. You can find them commonly in the South Provinces, and you'll need level 18 for the first evolution, followed by 1000 consecutive steps while using the Let's Go feature. Starting off the top half of our list today, we have Skeleturge, the final stage for the Fire Starter. While I did mention we have Ceruledge and Armor Rogue as an option to fill this role, Skeleturge I think does offer a bit more while handling the same bosses. For one, Skeleturge has the move Torch Song, which will boost your special attack by 1 stage every time you use it. You'll gain access to this move after evolving Crocolar in the Skeleturge, and it's pretty dang strong in-game. You'll also be able to utilize your bulk to take hits a lot better than Ceruledge and Armor Rogue can, which will be fairly useful to most players, especially for those of you playing in Nuzlocks. Skeleturge also has the added benefit of not gaining its ghost typing until later in the story, which will be perfect timing for your battles against Tulip and Eri. You also are able to avoid being a ghost type for your early battle on against Giacomo, So instead of being weak to his Pawniard's dark typing, you'll actually be able to destroy his first Pokemon with ease. Among the starters, I think you guys understand Skeleturge is probably the top dog. But of course we won't know that officially until the best team comes out. Moving on to our number 4, we have our best fairy type this generation, Tinkerton. Tinkerton is probably not only one of the best fairies this gen, but it's also one of the best steel types of the generation as well. You'll be able to match up well against the majority of opponents, while also having a defensive typing that's pretty unrivaled. Despite your low base stat total, Tinkerton has a lot of strong options offensively, especially its signature move, Gigaton Hammer. You'll be able to fire off a 160 base power steel type move. However, you can't use the move twice in a row. This downside isn't too bad though, as this essentially makes Tinkerton into a one-hit KO machine for your team. If you're looking to add a Tinkerton to your team for Scarlet and Violet, you should be able to catch yourself a Tinkatink in the early portion of the East Province, hiding around any sort of ruins-themed area. If you want to wait a few badges though, you can instead catch the middle stage Tinkatuff, or the final stage Tinkerton, hidden in valleys in the North Province area. I highly recommend using this Pokemon for its typing alone, and you should have an easy time on your journey considering how few bosses actually can put pressure on a fairy and steel type mon. Our number 3 Pokemon on today's list is probably one of the best dragon types you can use for your in-game teams, being Cyclizar. Cyclizar is a fairly strong dragon and normal Pokemon, which you can find fairly early in your adventure. The dragon typing allows you strong resistance against grass, water, fire, and electric Pokemon. While you'll probably be too overleveled for Brassius, you'll at least have this as an option for Mela, Iono, and Kofu's gyms. Not only this, but you also gain a strong offensive option against your Elite Four match versus Hassel, while not needing to go through the effort of using a weaker BST Pokemon such as Frigibax, which you need to wait until level 35 to evolve into the middle stage, or 54 for the final stage. Your high speed should make you a strong option for most fights in these games, and you even get to utilize its move Shed Tail to swap out of unfavorable scenarios. If you're looking to add this Pokemon to your team, I recommend checking the second area of either the East or West Province, as both are home to this wonderful dragon type. I personally am glad to finally have a fairly strong dragon option that you can actually utilize for a majority of your journey. And in tandem with the normal typing, this should provide one with a lot of strong offensive options for whatever fights you'll take on in these games. Despite how valuable Cyclizar is though, I do think there will be 2 stronger options for players on their journey. Moving on to our number 2 option on today's list for the Paldea region, we have none other than Claude Desire. Claude Desire's an incredibly bulky Pokemon with the ground and poison typing. While Paldean Wooper is a fairly weak option, once you evolve this Pokemon, it becomes incredibly difficult to knock out. Claude Desire also learns some fairly useful moves to level up, such as Toxic Spikes and Yawn, which in tandem with your normal bulk is enough to put pressure on most opponents. Not only this, but you can thankfully avoid being poisoned thanks to your typing, which allows Claude Desire to perform as an even more terrifying option in-game defensively. If this wasn't enough, you also will have access to the ability Water Absorb, which will allow you to wall out water types on your journey that would otherwise scare you. With this ability, you only truly would fear facing Glaciado, Tulip, and Rika's teams. Any other battle you'd encounter in these games should be able to get stalled out by Claude Desire. If you're looking to obtain Claude Desire for your team, make sure to check out the South Province areas 1, 2, 4, and 5, as these areas typically contain Paldean Wooper near ponds. Now, we're on to our final Pokemon. The strongest Pokemon to use in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet being Annihilate. Annihilate is the new evolution for Primeape, which you'll gain access to after using the move Rage Fist 20 times. This is truly worth your time to do though, as Annihilate becomes a Ghost and Fighting type Pokemon. This typing combination offensively is one of the strongest of all time, and with your incredible attack stat, nothing will stand in your way. This Pokemon will provide you with a strong option against every boss in the game offensively, with the only bosses that give you any trouble being Tulip, Ortega, and Larry. But this is only if you end up being slower than any of their Pokemon. If you're looking to use Annihilate as your fighting type on your team, you're in luck. Mankey's fairly accessible in the South Providence areas 1 and 5, or in the West Providence area 1. Once you gain access to Primeape at level 28, you need to level this up only 7 more levels to unlock the move Rage Fist, which is your key to evolving. If you want my advice, use this move against either some significantly weaker Pokemon or a normal type in order to use this move as quickly as possible. Once you have Annihilate, you should have an incredibly easy time against the rest of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my list of the top 10 new Pokemon you should use in Scarlet and Violet. These Pokemon are the ones I think will be the strongest for your journeys. But if you feel there are any Pokemon that I missed, make sure to leave your ideas in the comments below. If you enjoyed the vid, make sure you remember to leave a like and use that subscribe button to stay up to date on future Scarlet and Violet content. Thanks for watching the video and for coming through and enjoying Scarlet and Violet with me. We've got so much content coming surrounding Gen 9 through the end of the year and beyond, including the top 10 strongest Pokemon, the best team for the games, and much more. If you're interested in more Mystic content, check out my TikTok and Mystic Umbreon Shorts YouTube channel. When we get to 5,000 subs on the channel, we're going to have a new series related to Scarlet and Violet that will be exclusive to there, so go subscribe. Also, if you're into fanfictions or Genshin Impact, check out Mystic Reads and Tibotchinary. I offer a ton of creative spoken word content over there, and I do a bunch of theories and lore videos surrounding Genshin Impact. So come join me over there at that Float Your Boat. That's all for now. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time for more Scarlet and Violet content.